I gripped the handle of my chef's knife in silence, watching my best friend smooth her silk dress while she calmly called security on me. Amanda did not even look up as she slid a check across the stainless steel counter, ordering me to walk out of the kitchen I built from scratch. She was buying my silence and 10 years of my life for the price of a used car. Before we continue and find out how it all began, please subscribe and leave a like. We'd truly love to read your comments below. I stood in the kitchen that used to be mine, holding a chef's knife like it was the last piece of evidence in a murder trial. 8 inches of German steel, the handle worn smooth from years of use, the blade sharp enough to split a hair. The weight of it felt right in my hand. Everything else felt wrong. The stainless steel counters gleamed under the overhead lights, reflecting my face back at me in fractured pieces. My hair was pulled back tight, a few gray strands escaping near my temples. My chef's coat was spotless white, pressed that morning with the kind of care I used to reserve for opening nights and photo shoots. I wanted to look professional, composed, in control. Instead, I looked like a woman attending her own funeral. Amanda stood on the other side of the prep station, her manicured hands resting lightly on the marble surface. She wore a dress the color of champagne, silk that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her jewelry caught the light when she moved. A thin gold necklace, diamond studs, a watch I recognized. We looked at it together 2 years ago in a boutique on Michigan Avenue, laughing about how we'd both own one someday when our empire grew big enough. She bought hers 6 months ago. She never mentioned it. Behind her, through the pass-through window, I could see the dining room of our restaurant. White tablecloths, dark wood chairs, soft Edison bulbs hanging from exposed brick. The lunch service was winding down. A few tables still occupied. Well-dressed people leaning over plates, wine glasses catching the light. My food. My recipes. My vision plated and served in a space I'd helped design. In a business I'd helped build. Under a name I'd helped create. Except none of it was mine. Not legally. Not on paper. Not in any way that mattered when the lawyers got involved. Sarah, you need to understand that this is not personal. Amanda's voice was measured, calm, like she was explaining a business decision to a stakeholder, which I supposed she was, except I was not a stakeholder. I was an employee. That's what the paperwork said. That's what I'd just learned 3 hours ago, sitting in a conference room with her attorney and mine. Well, the attorney I'd hired that morning after the email arrived. The one that said we needed to talk. The one that used words like restructuring and transition and severance package. I set the knife down carefully on the cutting board. My hand was steady. I was proud of that. Then what is it? It's business, Amanda said. She reached for the leather folder sitting beside her, flipped it open, and slid a document across the counter toward me. The paper was heavy, expensive. Legal letterhead at the top. My name halfway down the page next to a dollar amount. It would have seemed generous if it was not buying my silence and my exit from the only thing I'd ever built that mattered. ULLC that the severance is more than fair. 6 months' salary. A reference letter. And of course, a non-compete clause that's limited to the Chicago metro area. You could go to New York, Los Angeles. Plenty of opportunities for someone with your talent. Talent. She said it like it was a consolation prize. Like it was something I could pack in a box and take with me when security walked me out the back door. I looked down at the document. The words blurred. I was not crying. I would not give her that. But my vision went soft around the edges, like I was looking at the world through gauze. 6 months' salary. After 4 years of 16-hour days. After building a menu that had put us on the map. After training a kitchen staff that could execute my vision even when I was not standing over them. After pouring everything I had into this place, into this partnership, into this dream that turned out to be only hers. You registered the trademark without telling me, I said. My voice came out quiet, flat. I heard it like it belonged to someone else. The name, the logo, the menu concepts, all of it. You put it all in your name. I protected our investment, Amanda corrected. She did not look away, did not flinch. Her gaze was steady, clear, utterly without guilt. Someone had to handle the legal side. You were busy in the kitchen. I was busy building the brand. That is how partnerships work, Sarah. We each do what we re good at. Partnerships. I tasted the word. It was bitter. Is that what you call it when one person owns everything and the other person just works here? For the first time, something shifted in Amanda's expression. Not guilt. Irritation. Like I was being difficult. Like I was the one making this harder than it needed to be. You re-upset. I understand. This is a shock. But if you look at the numbers, if you really think about it, you'll see that this is the right move. For both of us. You're brilliant, Sarah. Truly. But you do not want to deal with investors. You do not want to sit in meetings about expansion and franchising and profit margins. You want to cook. So go cook. Somewhere else. Somewhere you can do your art without all the business getting in the way. She made it sound reasonable. Logical. Like she was doing me a favor. And maybe in some twisted way she believed she was. Maybe she convinced herself that this was mercy. That cutting me loose was an act of kindness. I looked past her through the window into the dining room. A server walked by carrying 2 plates. My seared scallop dish. My signature. The one that had earned us a write-up in the Tribune. The one that had food bloggers lining up for reservations 3 months out. She was going to keep serving it. She was going to keep my menu, my recipes, my techniques. She just was not going to keep me. When? I asked. End of the day, Amanda said. I've already briefed the staff. Emily will take over as executive chef. Chef's ready. You trained her well. Emily. My sous chef. The woman I'd mentored for 3 years. The one I'd taught how to butcher a whole fish, how to build a sauce from scratch. How to keep her composure when the tickets were piling up and the heat was unbearable. She'd known. She must have known. Or maybe Amanda had kept it from her too. Maybe I was not the only one about to have my world pulled out from under me. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe I was not alone in this betrayal. But I did not know. And I did not have time to find out. Because Amanda was already closing the folder, already stepping back. Already looking past me like I was already gone. Security will help you clear out your locker, she said. Take your knives. Your personal items. Leave your keys and your access card on my desk. She paused. Smoothed her dress. I really am sorry, Sarah. I wish it did not have to be this way. She was not sorry. She was relieved. I could see it in the way her shoulders relaxed. In the way she turned toward the door without waiting for my response. She'd been carrying this decision for weeks, maybe months. And now that she delivered it, now that the hard part was over, she could go back to running her restaurant. Not ours. Hers. It had always been hers. I'd just been too stupid, too trusting, too buried in my work to see it. I watched her walk away. The door to the office swung shut behind her with a soft click that sounded, in that moment, like the seal on a crypt. I stood alone in the kitchen. Around me, the sounds of service continued. The hiss of pans on burners. The rhythmic chop of knives on cutting boards. The low murmur of voices calling out orders and confirmations. The kitchen was a living thing. An organism that breathed and moved and functioned. And I had been its heart. Now I was being carved out. Excised. Thrown away like trim from a perfect cut of meat. I picked up the knife again. Felt the familiar weight. The balance. I'd bought this knife 7 years ago. Back when I was still working the line at a French place in Lincoln Park. It had cost me $300 I did not have. I'd put it on a credit card and eaten ramen for a month to make the payment. But it was worth it. A good knife was everything. It was an extension of your hand, your will, your vision. Without it, you were just a cook. With it, you were a chef. I set it down gently, almost reverently, and walked toward the locker room. The hallway was narrow and dim, lit by flickering fluorescent tubes that someone kept meaning to replace. The walls were painted industrial gray, scuffed and marked from years of carts and boxes being wheeled through. I passed the dry storage room, the walk-in coolers, the office where Amanda was probably already on a call with her lawyer, making sure every detail was locked down tight. My footsteps echoed. I felt like a ghost. Like I was already gone and just did not know it yet. The locker room smelled like bleach and sweat and the faint, lingering scent of whatever soap the dishwashers used. Metal lockers lined one wall. A wooden bench ran down the center. A mirror hung crooked above a small sink. I opened my locker. Inside were my street clothes, a backup pair of kitchen clocks, a photo ID taped to the door 2 years ago. It showed me and Amanda on opening night, arms around each other, champagne glasses raised, huge smiles plastered across our faces. We looked like sisters, like partners, like people who trusted each other. I ripped the photo down, crumpled it, threw it in the trash bin beside the bench. Then I pulled out my knife roll, a battered canvas case that held my collection. 8 knives, sharpening steel, kitchen shears. I de-accumulated them over 15 years of working kitchens. From my first job washing dishes at a diner in Iowa to my last job before this one, running the line at a Michelin-starred spot in the Loop. These knives had been with me through every stage of my career. They were the only constants, the only things I could count on. I zipped the roll closed, slung it over my shoulder, and grabbed my coat from the hook. When I walked back into the kitchen, everything stopped. Not obviously, not dramatically, but I felt it. The shift. The way eyes flicked toward me and then quickly away. The way conversations died mid-sentence. The way people suddenly became very interested in whatever they were chopping or stirring or plating. They knew. Of course they knew. Amanda had briefed them, probably told them some sanitized version of the truth, that I was leaving to pursue other opportunities, that it was time for a change, that this was a mutual decision, amicable, professional. She would not have told them that she de-stolen everything, that she de-built this place on my back, and then kicked me off the ladder. Emily stood at the pass checking tickets. She looked up when I walked by. Our eyes met. Hers were red. She'd been crying. Or maybe she was about to. I could not tell. I did not stop. Could not. If I tried to talk to her, I'd break. And I could not break here. Not in front of them. Not in this kitchen that was no longer mine. The security guard was waiting by the back door. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark suit that looked uncomfortable in the heat of the kitchen. He had the decency to look embarrassed. "Ms. Collins," he said quietly. "I'm sorry. I have to walk you out." "I know," I said. I handed him my key card, my office keys, the things Amanda had told me to leave. He took them without a word. Then he opened the door, and I stepped out into the alley. The air outside was cold. It was mid-November in Chicago, and the wind off the lake cut through my coat like a blade. The alley was narrow, hemmed in by brick buildings on both sides. Dumpsters lined one wall. A delivery truck was parked halfway down, engine idling. The sky above was the color of old concrete. It looked like it might rain, or snow, or maybe just stay gray forever. The door closed behind me. I heard the lock engage. That sound, that final metallic click, was worse than anything Amanda had said. It was the sound of being erased. I stood there for a moment, knife roll over one shoulder, coat pulled tight against the wind. I tried to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. I had no plan, no backup, no safety net. I poured everything into this restaurant. My time, my energy, my money. The little savings I had left after culinary school and years of barely scraping by. I believed in this place. In us. In the partnership. And now I had nothing. I started walking. I did not know where I was going. I just walked. Down the alley. Onto the street. Past storefronts and coffee shops and people hurrying by with their heads down against the wind. The city moved around me indifferent. No one noticed the woman with the knife roll and the shell-shocked expression. No one cared. I was just another body on the sidewalk. Just another failure in a city full of them. I ended up at the river. There was a bench near the water, one of those public seating areas the city had installed to make the riverwalk more appealing to tourists. I sat down, stared at the water. It was dark and choppy, reflecting nothing. Boats moved past, sleek and expensive. Buildings towered above me, glass and steel monuments to success. I felt very small, very alone, very stupid. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. Low battery warning. I ignored it. Then another notification. An email. I almost did not look, but something made me open it. The sender was a name I did not recognize. Marcus Chun. The subject line read, I know what happened. Let us talk. I stared at the screen. My hands were cold, numb. The wind whipped my hair across my face. I read the email once, then again. It was short, professional. My name is Marcus Chen. I run a culinary consulting firm here in Chicago. I've been following your work for years. I know what Amanda Brooks just did to you. And I know how to make sure it never happens to another chef. If you're interested in fighting back, meet me tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. I'll send you the address. You do not have to stay a victim, Sarah. You can become something else. I sat with that for a long time. The cold seeped through my coat. My fingers ached. My chest felt tight. But somewhere underneath the shock and the grief and the rage, something else stirred. It was not hope. Not yet. Hope was too soft. Too fragile. This was harder. Sharper. It was the feeling I got when I sharpened a knife. When I honed the edge until it could split a tomato skin without pressure. It was focus. Clarity. Intent. I typed a reply. One word. Yes. Then I stood up, shouldered my knife roll, and walked back into the city. I did not know what Marcus Chen wanted. I did not know if he could actually help me. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I was not done. Not by a long shot. Amanda thought she'd won. Thought she'd cut me out clean and moved on. She was wrong. I'd spent 15 years learning how to cook. How to create. How to build something beautiful from raw ingredients. But I'd also learned how to butcher. How to break down something whole into its component parts. How to find the weak points. How to cut clean and deep. And I was about to teach Amanda Brooks what it felt like to be on the other side of the knife. Several hours earlier, everything had been different. The morning had started the way most mornings started. My alarm went off at 5:30. I'd silenced it before it could finish the first chime. Old habit. I'd been waking up before dawn for so long that my body did not need the alarm anymore. Just went off as a formality. I'd rolled out of bed, pulled on running clothes, and stepped out into the pre-dawn darkness of River North. The streets were empty. Quiet. This was my favorite time in the city. Before the traffic. Before the noise. Before the crowds. Just me and the pavement and the sound of my breath fogging in the cold air. I'd run 4 miles. Down to the lake and back. By the time I returned to my apartment, the sky was starting to lighten. Pink and gray streaks cutting through the dark. I'd showered. Made coffee. Stood in my tiny kitchen and scrolled through emails on my phone while the espresso machine hissed and gurgled. That's when I'd seen it. The email from Amanda's lawyer. Subject line. Meeting request urgent. I'd opened it. Read it twice. Felt my stomach drop. The email was vague. Professional. It requested my presence at a meeting at 11 a.m. today. It mentioned restructuring. It mentioned legal counsel. It mentioned that I should bring representation if I felt it necessary. I'd stared at that last line for a long time. If I felt it necessary. What the hell did that mean? I'd called Amanda. She had not answered. I'd texted her. No response. I'd tried Emily. Same thing. Radio silence. That's when the cold feeling had started. The sense that something was very, very wrong. I'd looked up employment lawyers in Chicago. Found one with good reviews and same-day availability. Made an appointment for 9:30. Then I'd gotten dressed. Put on my best chef's coat. The one without stains. The one I saved for press events and photo shoots. I'd wanted to look professional. In control. Like someone who could not be pushed around. I'd been so stupid. The lawyer's office had been in the loop. Small. Cramped. Bookshelves stuffed with legal texts. A desk covered in files. The lawyer himself had been younger than I expected. Maybe 35. Sharp suit. Tired eyes. He'd listened to my story. Looked over the email. Asked me a series of questions. Did I have a written partnership agreement? No. Did I have any documentation showing co-ownership? No. Had I registered any trademarks or business entities in my name? No. By the time he'd finished, I'd known. I'd known before he said it. Ms. Collins, based on what you've told me, you do not have legal standing as a partner. If everything is registered in Amanda Brooks' name, Then legally, she owns the business. You're an employee. A very important employee, clearly, but an employee nonetheless, which means she can terminate your employment for any reason, as long as she follows Illinois labor law. ID sat there, numb. The words had washed over me. Legal standing. Registered. Employee. Terminate. D kept talking. Something about severance packages and non-compete clauses and wrongful termination suits that we could explore but probably would not win. ID stopped listening. All I could think about was the day Amanda and I had shaken hands in that diner on Ashland. The day we agreed to do this together. 50-50. Partners. I trusted her. She'd been my friend. My best friend. We met in culinary school. Bonded over late-night study sessions and shared frustration with pretentious instructors. We dreamed together. Planned together. Built together. Or so I thought. The meeting with Amanda and her lawyer had been exactly as brutal as I expected. They laid it out cleanly. Efficiently. She was restructuring. Bringing in new investors. They wanted a leaner operation. Younger talent. Lower overhead. I was expensive. Difficult. Resistant to change. The restaurant was moving in a new direction, and I was not part of that direction. Here was the severance package. Here was the non-compete. Here was the door. I signed. What choice did I have? My lawyer had advised me that fighting would be expensive and futile. Take the money. Move on. Start over. Easy for him to say. He was not the one losing everything. Now, hours later, sitting on that bench by the river with Marcus Chen's email glowing on my phone screen, I felt something shift. The numbness cracked. Underneath it was anger. Pure. Cold. Focused. Amanda had stolen from me. Not just the restaurant. Not just the money. She'd stolen my work. My reputation. My identity. For 4 years I'd been the chef at that restaurant. People came because of my food. Critics wrote about my techniques. Food bloggers posted pictures of my dishes. And now Amanda was going to keep all of that. She was going to serve my menu under her name. She was going to profit from my creativity. And I was supposed to just walk away. No. I stood up. The knife roll felt heavy on my shoulder. Good. Weight meant substance. It meant I still had something. I started walking again. This time with purpose. I had 24 hours until my meeting with Marcus Chen. 24 hours to decide if I was going to stay a victim or become something else. I knew which one I wanted to be. The question was whether I had the strength to do it. Whether I had the ruthlessness. Whether I could set aside the part of me that still wanted to believe Amanda had been my friend, and focus on the part that knew with absolute certainty that she'd been my predator. By the time I reached my apartment, the decision was made. I was not going to slink away. I was not going to disappear. I was going to fight. And I was going to win. Not because I was better than Amanda. Not because I was smarter or more talented. But because I had something she did not. I had nothing left to lose. The next morning I woke up before my alarm again. Old habits. I lay in bed for a moment, staring at the ceiling, letting the events of yesterday settle over me like a weight. Fired. Erased. Disposable. The words cycled through my head on repeat. Then I pushed them away. I did not have time for self-pity. I had a meeting at 10. I got up. Made coffee. The apartment was small. A studio I'd rented when Amanda and I first opened the restaurant. I'd always meant to upgrade, move somewhere bigger, nicer. But I'd been working 80-hour weeks. I barely slept here. It was just a place to shower and change clothes between shifts. Now, looking around at the bare walls and second-hand furniture, I felt the full weight of how little I'd built outside of that kitchen. My whole life had been the restaurant. And now the restaurant was gone. I showered. Dressed in jeans and a sweater. Nothing fancy. I did not know what Marcus Chen wanted, but I was not going to pretend to be something I was not. I was a chef. I worked with my hands. I did not do corporate. I grabbed my coat, my phone, and the address Marcus had sent in a follow-up email late last night. West Loop, an industrial building that had been converted into offices and lofts. The kind of place where startups and creative agencies set up shop. I took the train. Stood pressed against strangers, holding the overhead rail, watching the city slide past through smudged windows. By the time I arrived, it was 9:50. I was early. Another old habit. In kitchens, being late meant disaster. You showed up early, prepped early, stayed late. That is how you survived. I found the building. Red brick. Tall windows. A lobby with polished concrete floors and a single elevator. I rode it to the 4th floor. The doors opened onto a hallway lined with glass-walled offices. Most were dark. Empty. One at the far end had lights on. I walked toward it. Through the glass I could see a man sitting at a desk. Asian. Mid-50s maybe. He wore a dark suit, no tie, wire-rimmed glasses. He looked up as I approached. Rose from his chair. Opened the door before I could knock. Sarah Collins. He said it like he already knew everything about me. Not a question. A statement of fact. Marcus Chun, I replied. He extended his hand. I shook it. His grip was firm. Confident. The kind of handshake that said he'd closed deals and won arguments and never doubted himself. Come in. Sit. The office was sparse. Minimalist. A desk. 2 chairs. A bookshelf lined with culinary texts, business journals, and what looked like legal binders. A single window overlooked the street below. On the desk sat a laptop and a thick manila folder. He gestured to one of the chairs. I sat. He sat across from me, folded his hands on the desk, and studied me for a long moment. His expression was unreadable. Calm. Analytical. Like he was sizing me up. Deciding if I was worth his time. You look like hell, he said finally. I feel like hell, I replied. He nodded. Good. Anger is useful. Despair is not. Who are you? I asked. And how do you know what happened to me? I run a culinary consulting firm, Marcus said. I work with chefs, restaurateurs, investors. I help people build brands. Sometimes I help them protect those brands. And sometimes when the situation calls for it, I help destroy them. He opened the manila folder. Inside were printed articles, financial documents, photographs. He slid one of the photos across the desk toward me. It showed Amanda and me at a charity gala 2 years ago. We were dressed up. Smiling. Arms around each other. I remembered that night. We'd been so proud. The restaurant had just been featured in Chicago magazine. We'd felt unstoppable. I've been watching your restaurant since it opened, Marcus continued. You're extraordinarily talented. One of the best chefs in this city. But Amanda Brooks is a predator. And you're not her first victim. I felt my stomach tighten. What do you mean? Marcus slid another photo across the desk. A man. Young. Maybe 30. He wore a chef's coat and had the kind of intense, focused expression I recognized. The look of someone who lived and breathed food. David Laurent, Marcus said. New Orleans. 4 years ago, Amanda pulled the exact same move. Found a talented chef. Convinced him to partner with her. Registered everything in her name. Then once the restaurant was successful, she cut him out. He tried to fight her legally. Spent everything he had on lawyers. Lost. Last I heard, he's working at a hotel restaurant in Baton Rouge. He gave up. He slid another photo. A woman. Older. Gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She looked tired. Worn down. Rebecca Ng. San Francisco. 6 years ago. Amanda did it to her too. Rebecca did not even try to fight. She just walked away. Opened a food truck. Disappeared from the industry. I stared at the photos. 2 faces. 2 lives. 2 people who'd been exactly where I was now. Why did not anyone warn me? Would you have believed them? Marcus asked. If some stranger came up to you 3 years ago and said your business partner was going to betray you, would you have listened? Or would you have thought they were bitter? Jealous? Trying to sabotage your success? He was right. I would not have listened. I'd trusted Amanda completely. We'd been friends. Sisters practically. Or so I'd thought. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you're different from David and Rebecca, Marcus said. He leaned back in his chair, studying me. David was broken. He tried to fight, but his heart was not in it. He just wanted his restaurant back. When he lost, he gave up. Rebecca was tired. She'd been in the industry for 30 years. She did not have the energy for a legal battle. But you? He smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was sharp. Calculating. You were angry. And anger properly channeled is the most powerful weapon there is. I felt something stir in my chest. Not hope. Not yet. But something close. What do you want from me? I want to help you destroy her, Marcus said simply. Not physically. Not illegally. But professionally. Publicly. Completely. I want to make sure Amanda Brooks never does this to another chef again. Why? I asked. What's in it for you? Satisfaction, Marcus said. I do not like bullies. I do not like people who exploit talent for profit. And I do not like Amanda Brooks. She has been a stain on this industry for years. I've watched her operate. I've seen the damage she does. I tried to warn Rebecca. She did not listen. I tried to help David. He did not have the stomach for what needed to be done. But you different. You ready. I can see it. Ready for what? To fight back, Marcus said. He opened his laptop, turned it toward me. On the screen was a financial spreadsheet. Revenue projections. Expense reports. Loan documents. Amanda's success is built on leverage. She borrows heavily. Uses investor money to fund expansion. On paper she looks solid. But dig a little deeper and you'll see the cracks. She's overextended. If her revenue drops even 10%, she's in trouble. If it drops 20%, she's bankrupt. And you think I can make that happen? I asked. I know you can, Marcus said. Here's the plan. You open a pop-up restaurant. Small. Exclusive. Invitation only. You pick a location close to her place. Close enough to make a statement. You invite every food critic, every influencer, every investor in Chicago. You show them what real talent looks like. You show them who actually created the food they've been raving about for years. You steal her customers, her press, her reputation. And when she's vulnerable, when her numbers start dropping, you expose her. You tell your story. You bring David and Rebecca forward. You make sure everyone knows what she did. I stared at him. This man I'd met 5 minutes ago. This stranger who was offering me revenge on a silver platter. Why would you fund this? What do you get out of it? I'll make my investment back when we expand your concept, Marcus said. Pop-up first. Then permanent location. Then more locations. You rebrand, Sarah. You just do not know it yet. And watching Amanda Brooks fall? That's worth every penny. What's the catch? I asked. No catch, Marcus said. But you need to commit. Fully. No hesitation. No second guessing. You do exactly what I say when I say it. This is not about feelings. That's not about fairness. That's about strategy. Precision. Execution. Can you do that? I thought about Amanda. About the way she looked at me yesterday. Like I was an inconvenience. A problem she solved. I thought about David and Rebecca. Two people who'd been chewed up and spit out. Two people who'd given up. I was not going to be the third. I was not going to disappear. I was not going to let Amanda win. Yes, I said. I can do that. Marcus extended his hand across the desk. Then we have a deal. I shook his hand. His grip was firm. Final. Binding. First things first, Marcus said, pulling out a legal pad and a pen. We need a name for the pop-up. Something that tells the story without being obvious. Something that signals what you're redoing. I thought for a moment. Then it came to me. Clean. Simple. Perfect. Reclaimed. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Reclaimed? As in taking back what was stolen, I said. Reclaimed ingredients. Reclaimed techniques. Reclaimed dignity. He smiled. Wrote it down. I like it. Sharp. Memorable. Good. Now, menu. What are you going to serve? Everything she stole, I said. The words came out cold. Hard. Every dish I created for that restaurant. Every technique I developed. But better. Refined. Perfected. I've had 4 years to think about those recipes. 4 years to see what worked and what did not. I'm going to take everything I learned and make it flawless. including the Amazon course? Marcus asked. I hesitated. The Amazon ingredient. The exotic component I'd spent 6 months sourcing and learning to prepare. It was expensive, difficult to work with, dangerous if handled incorrectly. It required precise temperature control, specific acid balance, exact timing. One mistake and the dish was ruined. Or worse, one mistake and someone could get seriously sick. That is why I'd written detailed prep protocols. That is why I'd trained my team personally. That is why I'd never let anyone touch it without supervision. Especially the Amazon course, I said. Marcus nodded. Good. Now, location. I have a space in mind. A gallery in River North. The owner is a friend. He owes me a favor. That's got a small kitchen in the back. Seating for about 30 people. Perfect for a pop-up. Intimate. Exclusive. High-end. How close to Amanda's restaurant? I asked. 2 blocks, Marcus said. Close enough to make a point. Close enough that her regulars will hear about it. Close enough that the press will draw comparisons. When do we start? Today, Marcus said. He stood, grabbed his coat from the back of his chair. Let us go look at the space. Then we'll start building your team. We took his car. A sleek black sedan that smelled like leather and money. He drove fast, weaving through traffic with the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly where he was going. He talked the whole time. Logistics. Timeline. Budget. He had it all mapped out. 3 weeks to pull the pop-up together. 3 weeks to source ingredients, finalize the menu, train the team, spread the word. It was tight. Insane, really. Most pop-ups took months to plan. But Marcus insisted. Strike while the iron is hot. While people still remember your name. While Amanda thinks she is safe. You'll need a team, Marcus said as he turned onto a side street. Small. Loyal. People who would not leak information to Amanda. People you trust absolutely. Emily, I said immediately. My sous chef. The woman I'd trained. The woman who looked at me with red eyes yesterday as I walked out of the kitchen. She is solid. If she knew what Amanda did, she'd quit in a heartbeat. Can you trust her? Marcus asked. With my life, I said. Good. Call her. Today. Do not give her details over the phone. Just tell her you need to talk. In person. Somewhere private. Feel her out. If she is in, bring her in. If yes, not, move on. No hard feelings. No guilt. This is business. Who else? I asked. You'll need a pastry chef, Marcus said. Someone who can execute at a high level. Someone creative. I thought for a moment. Nicole Tran. She worked with me at my last job. Moved to Milwaukee a year ago to be closer to family. She is brilliant. Innovative. And she hates corporate bullshit. If I called her right now and told her I was doing something crazy, she'd be on the road in an hour. Call her, Marcus said. And I'll need at least 1 line cook, I said. Someone fast. Precise. Someone who can handle the pressure. I know a kid, Marcus said. Just graduated from culinary school. Top of his class. Hungry. Talented. Works his ass off. He has been staging at different restaurants around the city, trying to find the right fit. I'll reach out to him. If he is interested, I'll send him your way. We pulled up in front of a narrow building wedged between a high-end boutique and a specialty coffee shop. The ground floor was a gallery. White walls. Polished concrete floors. Abstract art hanging in careful arrangements. Large windows facing the street. Marcus led me through the main space to a door in the back marked private. He unlocked it, pushed it open and gestured for me to go inside. The kitchen was small. Compact. Nothing like the spacious, gleaming palace I'd left behind. But it was functional. A 6-burner range. A single convection oven. Stainless steel prep tables. A small walk-in cooler. A 3-compartment sink. Everything I needed. Nothing I did not. It is perfect, I said. Marcus checked his watch. We have 3 weeks. That is not a lot of time. I do not need a lot of time, I said. I ran my hand along the edge of the prep table. Cold metal. Solid. Real. I've been preparing for this my whole career. I just did not know it. Marcus smiled. That's what I wanted to hear. Over the next 3 days I built my team. I called Emily first. Asked her to meet me at a coffee shop in Wicker Park. Somewhere far from the restaurant. Somewhere Amanda would never go. Emily showed up looking nervous. Tired. She slid into the booth across from me and did not say anything for a long moment. Just looked at me with those dark, serious eyes. I did not know, she said finally. I swear to God, Sarah. I did not know she was going to fire you. She called a staff meeting the morning after you left. Told us UD decided to pursue other opportunities. That it was mutual. That we should all wish you well and move forward. I knew it was bullshit. But I did not know what really happened until I started asking questions. What did you find out? I asked. That she's been planning this for months, Emily said. Her voice was tight. Angry. She hired a new chef 2 weeks ago. Some kid from New York. Told him he'd be starting as Sue. But the paperwork said executive chef. She was going to slot him in the second you were gone. She's been negotiating with new investors. Promising them lower costs. Higher margins. She sold you out, Sarah. She sold all of us out. I felt a cold satisfaction settle in my chest. Emily was angry. Good. Anger I could work with. How would you feel about quitting? Emily blinked. What? I'm starting something new, I said. Pop-up. 3 weeks from now. Small. Exclusive. Invitation only. I'm going to show this city what real food looks like. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows Amanda Brooks is a fraud. I want you with me. But I need to know you all in. Because once you walk away from that restaurant there's no going back. Emily did not hesitate. I'm in. When do we start? Tomorrow. She grinned. It was the first real smile I'd seen from her in days. I'll put in my notice today. Do not give her 2 weeks, I said. Just walk. Let her scramble. With pleasure. Nicole was just as easy. I called her that afternoon. Told her I needed her. Told her I was doing something insane and possibly career-ending and definitely not safe. She laughed. Actually laughed. I've been waiting for you to do something crazy, she said. When do you need me? Yesterday. I'll be there tomorrow, she said. I'm driving down tonight. The line cook, Jason Park, showed up 2 days later. Marcus had been right. The kid was hungry. 23 years old. Skinny. Tattoos covering both arms. He moved like lightning. Talked fast. Listened carefully. I put him through a trial run. Had him prep 3 dishes from scratch while I watched. He did not waste a single motion. Did not hesitate. Did not ask unnecessary questions. By the time he finished I knew. You rehired, I said. Yes, chef, he replied. No smile. No celebration. Just focus. I liked him immediately. We worked 12-hour days. The 4 of us. Crammed into that tiny kitchen, testing recipes, refining techniques, arguing over plating and timing and flavor balance. It was brutal. Exhausting. The best I'd felt in years. This was mine. Not Amanda's. Mine. Every decision. Every dish. Every detail. I had complete control. And I was going to make it perfect. Marcus handled everything else. Permits. Invitations. Publicity. He worked his network ruthlessly. Called in favors. Made promises. Planted seeds. Within a week the buzz started building. Social media posts. Whispers on food blogs. Cryptic mentions in industry newsletters. An exclusive pop-up. 1 night only. Limited seating. The chef who built Amanda Brooks' empire. Marcus leaked just enough information to create intrigue. Not enough to give Amanda a clear picture of what was coming. 2 weeks in I got a phone call. Unknown number. I almost did not answer. But something made me pick up. Sarah. Amanda's voice. Cold. Hard. What the hell do you think you redoing? I'm cooking, I said. That is what I do. You trying to sabotage me, Amanda said. This pop-up. This little stunt. You think I do not have people watching? You think I do not know what you replanning? I'm not planning anything, I said. I'm just making food. If that threatens you, maybe you should ask yourself why. There was a long pause. Then Amanda's voice dropped. Low. Dangerous. If you go through with this, I will destroy you. I have lawyers. I have resources. I have connections you see not even imagine. I will bury you so deep you'll never work in this city again. Try, I said. And I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From adrenaline. From the pure crystalline certainty that I was doing the right thing. Marcus looked up from his laptop. We were in the gallery kitchen. He'd been working on the seating chart for the pop-up. That was her? He asked. I nodded. Good, Marcus said. That means she is scared. The night before the pop-up, I could not sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through the menu in my head. 12 courses. Each one a statement. Each one a reclamation. I thought about Amanda. About what she'd say when the reviews started rolling in. About how she'd feel when she realized what she'd lost. I thought about David and Rebecca. 2 people who'd given up. 2 people who'd let Amanda win. I was not going to be like them. I was going to fight. And I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly who Amanda Brooks really was. At 4 in the morning I gave up on sleep. Got dressed. Went to the gallery kitchen. Emily was already there. So was Nicole. We did not say anything. Just started prepping. By the time Jason arrived at 6 we were deep into it. Mise en place. Sauces. Garnishes. Everything perfectly organized. Everything ready. At 5 in the evening, the first guests started arriving. Marcus greeted them at the door. He transformed the gallery into a dining space. One long communal table. White linens. Simple place settings. Candles. Minimalist. Elegant. It looked like an art installation. Which in a way it was. 30 people. Critics. Chefs. Investors. Influencers. Food bloggers with massive followings. All of them curious. All of them watching. I stood in the kitchen, heart pounding. This was it. The moment everything changed. Emily squeezed my shoulder. You've got this, chef. I nodded. Tied my apron. Picked up my knife. Let us show them what real food looks like. The first course went out at 6:15. A single oyster. Poached gently in court bouillon. Chilled. Topped with a paper-thin slice of the Amazon ingredient. Cured and shaved to translucency. A drop of yuzu. A whisper of black pepper. It looked impossibly simple. Deceptively simple. That was the point. The flavor would tell the real story. I watched through the small window that separated the kitchen from the dining room. Watched as the servers placed the dishes in front of each guest. Watched as forks were lifted. Watched as the first bites were taken. Then I watched faces change. Eyes widened. Heads tilted back slightly. Mouths opened in small, involuntary expressions of surprise. Someone set down their fork and just stared at the empty shell. Someone else immediately reached for their phone. I turned back to the stove. Chef, they loving it, Jason said quietly. He was working the fish station. His hands moved with precision. No wasted motion. Good, I said. Course 2 in 4 minutes. Let us keep the tempo tight. We moved like a machine. 4 of us in a kitchen barely big enough for 2. But we rehearsed this. We knew the dance. Emily called orders. Nicole plated desserts in the corner, working 3 courses ahead. Jason fired proteins. I ran the pass, checked every plate, adjusted every garnish. 12 courses. 12 opportunities to prove what I was. What I'd always been. Course 2. Hamachi crudo. Thinly sliced. Dressed with olive oil infused with charred lemon. Topped with crispy quinoa and microgreens. Simple. Clean. Perfect. Course 3. Roasted beet salad. But not the kind you'd seen 1,000 times. I'd smoked the beets over cherry wood. Paired them with goat cheese I'd made myself. Cultured for exactly 72 hours. Added candied walnuts and a balsamic reduction. I'd been aging for 6 months. It was a dish I'd wanted to put on Amanda's menu 2 years ago. She'd said no. Too rustic. Too simple. Not elevated enough. She'd been wrong. Course 4. Seared scallops. My signature. The dish that had put Amanda's restaurant on the map. Except better. I'd refined the technique. Adjusted the sear time by 30 seconds. Changed the accompaniment from cauliflower puree to celery root. Added a brown butter emulsion that brought everything together. When that course went out, I heard something from the dining room. A sound. Collective. Involuntary. The sound of people experiencing something extraordinary. Marcus appeared in the kitchen doorway. He did not say anything. Just gave me a single nod. Then he disappeared back into the dining room. I kept working. Course 5. Duck breast. Cooked sous vide then seared. Crispy skin. Perfectly pink interior. Served with a cherry gastrique and roasted root vegetables. Course 6. A palate cleanser. Sorbet made from champagne and elderflower. Light. Refreshing. A breath before the heavier courses to come. I could feel the energy building. Not just in the kitchen. In the entire space. The dining room had gone quiet. Not silent. But focused. People were not talking. They were eating. Experiencing. Present. This was what food was supposed to do. It was not supposed to be background noise for business meetings or first dates. It was supposed to demand attention. Command respect. Tell a story. Course 7. The Amazon dish. My masterpiece. The ingredient ID spent months learning to work with. ID prepared it exactly according to my protocol. Precise temperature. Exact timing. Specific acid balance. The result was a protein that melted on the tongue. Rich. Complex. Unlike anything else. ID paired it with a cauliflower puree, charred spring onions, and a red wine reduction. When the plates went out, I held my breath. This was the test. This was the dish that would make or break the entire evening. 2 minutes later, Marcus came back to the kitchen. His expression was unreadable. Then he smiled. Actually smiled. Sarah, they're retaking photos. Posting. Tagging. This is already going viral. I did not respond. Could not. I was already focused on course 8. Lamb. Rack of lamb Frenched and seared. Served with potato puree, roasted garlic, and a mint chimichurri. Course 9. Pasta. Fresh tagliatelle made that morning. Tossed with butter, sage, and parmesan. Simple. Traditional. Flawless. Sometimes the simplest dishes were the hardest to execute. There was nowhere to hide. Every element had to be perfect. Course 10. Cheese course. A selection ID curated myself. Aged cheddar from Wisconsin. Brie from a small producer in Vermont. Blue cheese from Iowa. Served with house-made crackers, honeycomb, and dried fruit. Nicole had made the crackers. They were perfect. Crisp. Buttery. Just salty enough. Course 11. Pre-dessert. A small cup of chocolate mousse. Dark. Bittersweet. Topped with sea salt and a single gold leaf. Decadent without being heavy. And then, Course 12. Nicola's Triumph. A deconstructed apple tart. Thin slices of apple, caramelized to translucency. Vanilla bean ice cream. Caramel sauce made from brown butter and dark sugar. Crumble made from brown butter, flour, and oats. It looked like a painting. Tasted like autumn. Like comfort. Like home. When the last plate went out, I leaned against the prep table and exhaled. My hands were shaking. My legs felt weak. Emily looked at me grinning. "We did it, chef." "Yeah," I said. "We did." Marcus came back into the kitchen. This time he was carrying his phone. He held it up so I could see the screen. Twitter. Instagram. Facebook. Posts everywhere. Photos of the food. Glowing comments. Shares and retweets multiplying in real time. He scrolled to a tweet from one of Chicago's most influential food critics. It had been posted 7 minutes ago. "Just experienced the most extraordinary meal of my career. Forget everything you thought you knew about fine dining in Chicago. This is the future. This is art. This is at Sarah Collins Chef." Hashtag reclaimed below it. Hundreds of likes. Dozens of retweets. Comments pouring in. Other critics chiming in. Bloggers weighing in. Chefs from around the city adding their thoughts. The buzz was building. Fast. Uncontrollable. Exactly what we hoped for. "Look at this one," Marcus said, scrolling. Another post. This one from a major food influencer with 500,000 followers. A photo of the Amazon course. The caption read, "I've eaten at every Michelin-starred restaurant in this city. This dish is better than all of them." Who is Sarah Collins and why have not we been talking about her? I felt something crack open in my chest. Not relief. Not quite. Something harder. Vindication. Let them come out, Marcus said. The guests. They're going to want to meet you. Thank you. This is your moment, Sarah. Take it. I untied my apron, wiped my hands, walked out of the kitchen and into the dining room. 30 faces turned toward me. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone. Applause filled the small space. People stood. I felt my throat tighten. These people did not know my story. Not yet. They just knew the food. And the food had spoken for itself. A woman approached me. Mid-50s. Elegant. I recognized her. Food editor for a major publication. Ms. Collins, she said. That was extraordinary. Truly. I'd love to set up an interview. I want to hear your story. How you developed this menu. Where you've been. Where you re-going. I'd be happy to, I said. Others came forward. Introductions. Business cards. Requests for interviews, features, collaborations. Marcus stood to the side watching. Managing. Making sure I was not overwhelmed. After 30 minutes, the guests started to leave. They filtered out slowly, reluctantly, still talking about the food. Still posting. Still spreading the word. By 9 o'clock, the gallery was empty. Just me, Emily, Nicole, Jason, and Marcus. We stood in the kitchen, surrounded by dirty dishes and empty containers. We cooked for 30 people. Executed 12 courses. Pulled off something that should have been impossible in 3 weeks. What happens now? Emily asked. Marcus pulled out his phone again. Showed us the numbers. The posts had multiplied. The original tweet from the food critic had been shared over 1,000 times. News outlets were picking up the story. Chicago Tribune. Eater Chicago. Even a national food blog had posted something. The word was out. Sarah Collins was back. And she was better than ever. Now, Marcus said, we wait. And we watch Amanda's world start to crumble. I went home that night exhausted. Wired. Unable to sleep. I lay in bed scrolling through my phone, watching the posts multiply. Reading the comments. People were asking questions. Where had I come from? Why had not they heard of me before? Some people connected the dots. Noticed that I used to work at Amanda's restaurant. Started asking why I'd left. What had happened? Marcus had been smart. He had not said anything. Had not planted any stories. Just let the questions build. Let the curiosity grow. The truth would come out. But not yet. Not until the time was right. 3 days after the pop-up, my phone rang. New York Times. The same writer who emailed me months ago about the feature on women in fine dining. The one I'd never responded to because I'd been too busy working for Amanda. Too busy building an empire that was not mine. Ms. Collins, she said. I'd like to move forward with that piece. But I want to change the angle. I've been hearing things. About you. About Amanda Brooks. About what happened. I've done some digging. Talked to former employees. Looked at financial records. There is a pattern here. And I think it is a story that needs to be told. Would you be willing to go on the record? I thought about David. About Rebecca. About every chef who been used and discarded. About every creative person who had their work stolen by someone with money and connections and lawyers. Yes, I said. I'll go on the record. Over the next week I did 3 interviews. The Times. Eater. Chicago Magazine. I told them everything. The handshake deal. The stolen trademark. The firing. The severance package designed to keep me quiet. Marcus helped me contact David and Rebecca. Both agreed to talk. To add their stories to mine. To make sure everyone understood, this was not an isolated incident. This was a pattern. A strategy. A business model built on exploitation. Meanwhile, Marcus worked behind the scenes. He reached out to investors. Floated the idea of a permanent location for Reclaimed. Interest was immediate. Overwhelming. People wanted in. They wanted to be part of something authentic. Something real. Something that was not corporate. Was not calculated. Was not built on someone else's stolen work. 2 weeks after the pop-up, the New York Times piece dropped. The headline hit like a bomb. The chef who built an empire, and the partner who stole it. Inside the dark side of Chicago's restaurant scene, it was devastating. Thorough. Detailed. The writer had done her homework. Financial documents. Trademark filings. Interviews with former staff members who corroborated everything. Photos of me, David, and Rebecca. 3 chefs. 3 victims. 1 predator. The article did not just tell my story. It told a larger story about power. About exploitation. About how the restaurant industry chewed up talented people and spit them out. Within hours, the article was everywhere. Twitter, Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook. Food industry groups were sharing it. Culinary schools were discussing it. Other chefs started coming forward with their own stories of exploitation. Not necessarily by Amanda, but by other operators who used similar tactics. The article had opened a floodgate. My phone would not stop ringing. Interview requests, messages of support, offers from investors, offers from other chefs who wanted to work with me. I turned off my phone, sat in my apartment, let the chaos swirl around me, and waited. It took 3 days for Amanda to respond. She released a statement through her lawyer. It was clinical, defensive. She denied everything. Said I was a disgruntled former employee. Said the article was biased. Said she'd done nothing wrong. The response landed like a lead balloon. No one believed her. The evidence was too clear. The pattern too obvious. Then, for days after the article dropped, everything changed. I was at the gallery, meeting with Marcus and a potential investor when my phone buzzed. A news alert. I glanced at it. Felt my blood turn to ice. Multiple diners hospitalized after meal at River North Restaurant. I clicked on the article. Read faster. Amanda's Restaurant. 12 people. Severe food poisoning. 2 in critical condition. The health department had been called. An investigation was underway. Preliminary findings suggested improper preparation of an exotic ingredient. The restaurant had been shut down pending the investigation. The Amazon ingredient. The one I'd spent months learning to prepare safely. The one that required precise temperature control, specific acid balance, exact timing. The one Amanda's new chef clearly did not know how to handle. Marcus read over my shoulder. Jesus, he said quietly. The investor looked between us. What is it? Amanda's Restaurant just poisoned a dozen people, Marcus said. Over the next 48 hours, the story exploded. News coverage. Social media outrage. The health inspector's report was leaked. It confirmed what I already knew. The Amazon ingredient had been prepared incorrectly. Wrong temperature. Wrong acid level. The prep protocols I'd written, the ones I'd drilled into my staff, had been ignored. Or maybe lost. Or maybe the new chef had never been given them. Either way, people were in the hospital. And Amanda was responsible. The investors pulled out. All of them. The restaurant's landlord issued a notice. Staff members quit en masse. The health department levied fines. And then the lawsuits started. Civil suits from the victims. A potential criminal investigation for negligence. Amanda Brooks, the woman who built her career on stolen talent, was being torn apart. My phone rang. Unknown number. I knew who it was before I answered. You did this. Amanda's voice. Raw. Broken. You destroyed me. No, I said. My voice was calm. Cold. You destroyed yourself. I created those recipes. I wrote those protocols. I trained that staff. You stole all of it. Then you replaced me with someone who did not know what they were doing. You cut corners. You prioritized profit over safety. This is on you, Amanda. Not me. Those people are in the hospital, she said. Her voice cracked. 2 of them are in critical condition. Because you were reckless, I said. Because you thought you could take my work and execute it without understanding it. You were wrong. There was a long silence. I could hear her breathing. Uneven. Shaky. I'm losing everything, she said finally. The restaurant. The investors. My reputation. Everything. Good, I said. And I meant it. Maybe now you understand what it feels like. You could have just walked away, Amanda said. You could have started over somewhere else. You did not have to do this. Yes, I said. I did. Because if I did not, you'd do it to someone else. Another chef. Another victim. I stopped you, Amanda. And I do it again. Silence. Then quietly. I underestimated you. You did. I agreed. Goodbye, Amanda. I hung up. Blocked the number. Sat in the silence of my apartment. Outside, the city continued. Indifferent. Uncaring. But inside I felt something shift. The weight I'd been carrying for months, the anger and betrayal and grief started to lift. Not completely, but enough. Enough to breathe. Enough to move forward. Marcus called an hour later. Have you seen the news? Yeah, I said. Amanda's finished, he said. The restaurant is not coming back from this. She is facing lawsuits that LL bankrupt her. Criminal charges possibly. She is done, Sarah. You won. I did not feel like I won. I felt tired, hollowed out, but also strangely at peace. What's next? I asked. Next, Marcus said, we build your empire. The right way. 6 months later, I stood in front of a different building. Same neighborhood. River North. But this space was mine. Truly mine. The lease was in my name. The business entity was registered in my name. The trademark, the logo, the concept, all of it legally protected. And this time I had a partner. A real partner. Emily. 50-50. In writing. Reviewed by lawyers. Signed. Notarized. No handshake deals. No trust without verification. Never again. The sign above the door glowed in brushed gold letters. Reclaimed. Permanent location. Opening night was in 3 hours. The dining room was ready. Tables set. Candles lit. Glassware polished to a shine. The kitchen hummed with controlled energy. Nicole worked the pastry station. Jason, now my sous chef, ran the line with Emily. We hired 3 more cooks. Young. Talented. Hungry. People who wanted to learn. People who wanted to build something real. Marcus appeared beside me. He'd been instrumental in making this happen, connecting me with investors who believed in the vision, who understood that this was not just another restaurant. It was a statement. A reclamation not just of my career, but of the values that should have driven this industry all along. Respect. Fairness. Transparency. Nervous? He asked. Terrified, I admitted. He smiled. Good. That means you care. But you should not be. You've already proven yourself. Tonight is just confirmation. The first guests arrived at 6. Then more. By 6:30, every table was full. Reservations were booked solid for the next 4 months. The menu was a refined version of what we served at the pop-up. 12 courses. Tasting menu only. Wine pairings optional. High-end. Exclusive. But not pretentious. Every dish told a story. Every ingredient was sourced with care. Every technique was executed with precision. I worked the pass. Watched every plate go out. Made adjustments. Tasted sauces. Corrected temperatures. This was my domain. My kingdom. Built on my terms. The service ran smoothly. No disasters. No mistakes. By 10 o'clock, the last dessert course had gone out. The dining room was full of satisfied guests. Conversations flowing. Wine glasses being refilled. Exactly the atmosphere I'd wanted to create. When the last guests left, I stood in the empty dining room with Emily. We did not say anything for a long moment. Just looked around at what we built. Together. We did it, Emily said finally. Yeah, I replied. We did. Over the next year, Reclaimed became one of the most talked about restaurants in Chicago. Critics raved. Awards followed. Michelin came calling. We earned a star in our first year. Then a second. The reservations waiting list stretched to 6 months. We could have expanded the dining room, packed in more tables, maximized profit. We did not. We kept it small, intimate, focused on quality over quantity. But we did expand in other ways. Marcus helped us open a second location, then a third. Each one chef-driven. Each one built on the same principles. Fair wages. Transparent ownership structures. Respect for the people doing the work. We recruited talented young chefs. gave them equity stakes, helped them build their own brands under the Reclaimed umbrella. It was not a corporation. It was a collective, a family. I started getting invited to speak at culinary schools, industry conferences, panels on restaurant ownership and chef exploitation. I told my story over and over, not because I wanted sympathy, but because I wanted to warn people, protect them, give them the tools to avoid what had happened to me. I talked about contracts, legal protection, the importance of getting everything in writing, the danger of trusting too much, of assuming good faith without verification. Young chefs came up to me after these talks, thanked me, told me their own stories of exploitation, of being used, of having their work stolen. Some of them joined our team. Others went on to open their own places, using the framework we established. Transparent, fair, built on mutual respect. Slowly, quietly, we were changing the culture. David Laurent reached out 18 months after the Times article. He read about Reclaimed, about what I was building. He wanted to know if there was room for him, if he could be part of it. I flew him to Chicago, sat down with him over coffee, listened to his story, the bitterness, the years of struggle, the slow rebuilding of his confidence. By the time we finished talking, I knew he was not broken anymore. He was ready. "I want you to run the New Orleans location," I said. He stared at me. "What?" "We re-expanding," I said, "for more cities over the next 2 years. New Orleans is one of them. I want someone who understands what we re-trying to do. Someone who has been through what I've been through. Someone who will not make the same mistakes." "That is you, David." He did not answer right away. Just sat there, looking at me like I'd offered him something impossible. Then he nodded. "Okay," he said quietly. "Yeah, okay." Rebecca Ng took longer to come around. She'd been out of the industry for years. The food truck had failed. She'd taken a job managing a grocery store bakery. When I reached out, she was hesitant, skeptical. She'd been burned too badly, trusted too much, lost too much. I understood. I did not push. Just told her the door was open if she ever changed her mind. 2 years after Reclaimed opened, she called. "I've been following what you redoing," she said. "I want to believe it's real, that it's different. But I'm scared, Sarah. I see I not go through that again." "I know," I said. "But this time you own a piece of it. Legally. On paper. Your name on the contracts. Your voice in the decisions. It is not trust. It is structure. It is protection." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "What do you need?" "A pastry program director," I said. "Someone who can train the next generation. Someone who understands technique and creativity and mentorship." "That is you, Rebecca." She joined us 3 months later, moved to Chicago, started building a pastry curriculum that became the standard across all our locations. She mentored young pastry chefs the way Eddie once mentored Emily, with patience, with rigor, with respect. Watching her come back to life, watching her rediscover her passion, was one of the most satisfying things I'd ever experienced. 3 years after I was fired from Amanda's restaurant, I got a call from a real estate agent. There was a property available in River North, a restaurant space, recently vacated. The previous tenant had gone bankrupt. Multiple lawsuits, criminal charges. The space had been sitting empty for months. No one wanted to touch it. Too much bad history. Too much negative association. It was Amanda's restaurant. I went to look at it. Walked through the empty dining room. The kitchen that had once been my domain. Everything was still there. The equipment. The tables. The bar. But it felt hollow. Dead. Like a body without a soul. I stood at the pass where I'd spent 4 years of my life, touched the cold metal, felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. Nothing. Marcus came with me. He looked around, hands in his pockets. "What do you want to do with it?" I thought about it. I could have walked away, let someone else buy it, turn it into a generic steakhouse or a corporate chain location. But that felt wrong. This space had history, pain, but also potential. Could be something else. Something better. I want to turn it into an incubator, I said. Marcus raised an eyebrow. An incubator? A place where young chefs can develop their concepts, I said. Test menus. Build teams. Without having to worry about rent or investors or someone stealing their work. We provide the space, the equipment, the mentorship. They provide the talent. When they re-ready, we help them open their own places. Real ownership. Real control. Marcus smiled slowly. I like it. What are you going to call it? I looked around the empty space. Thought about everything that had happened here. The dreams. The betrayal. The destruction. The rebirth. The Phoenix Project, I said. We bought the building. Gutted it. Redesigned it. 6 months later, the Phoenix Project opened. We brought in 5 young chefs for the first cohort. Gave them each a quarter of the kitchen. 3 months to develop a concept. Test it. Refine it. At the end of the 3 months, we hosted a showcase. Invited investors. Critics. Industry people. Let the chefs show what they could do. 4 of the 5 went on to secure funding for their own restaurants. The 5th joined our team at Reclaimed. We ran new cohorts every quarter. Word spread. Applications poured in. We could not take everyone, but we took as many as we could. Gave them the tools, the knowledge, the protection. Made sure they understood contracts, ownership, legal structure. Taught them how to build something that could not be stolen. Amanda's name faded from the industry. I heard through the grapevine that she left Chicago. Moved to Arizona. Tried to start a consulting business. It did not work. Last I heard, she was working in marketing for a hotel chain. Middle management. Anonymous. Forgotten. I did not feel sorry for her. But I did not feel vindicated either. I just felt tired. Done. The anger that had driven me for so long had burned itself out. What remained was purpose, clarity, a sense of mission that was bigger than revenge. 5 years after I was fired, I was invited to give the keynote speech at a major culinary conference. The audience was packed. Chefs from all over the country, students, industry professionals. I stood at the podium looking out at hundreds of faces and told my story. Not the sanitized version, not the polite version, the real version, the betrayal. The theft, the fight, the rebuilding. You cannot steal talent, I said toward the end of my speech. You can steal recipes. You can steal concepts. You can steal credit. But you cannot steal the fire that makes someone great. And if you try, you'll get burned. I made the mistake of trusting without protecting myself. Of believing that friendship was enough. That good intentions mattered more than legal documentation. I was wrong. And I paid for it. But I learned. And I want to make sure you do not have to learn the same way I did. I talked about contracts. About the importance of ownership. About building systems that protected creative people instead of exploiting them. About the responsibility we all had to change an industry that chewed people up and spit them out. When I finished, the applause was deafening. People stood. Cameras flashed. But the moment that mattered most came after. When a young chef approached me. She could not have been more than 25. She had tears in her eyes. Thank you, she said. My chef just offered me a partnership. Handshake deal. I was going to say yes. But after hearing you, I'm going to ask for a contract. I'm going to protect myself. Good, I said. Do that. And if they will not give you a contract, walk away. Your talent is worth more than someone's empty promises. She nodded. Walked away. I watched her go and felt something settle in my chest. This was why I did it. Not for revenge. Not for recognition. For moments like this. For the chance to protect someone else from what I'd been through. That night I had dinner with Marcus, Emily, Nicole, Jason, David, and Rebecca. All of us together for the first time in months. We sat around a table at Reclaimed, the original location, and talked about everything and nothing. About new menu ideas. About expansion plans. About life outside the kitchen. We laughed. We argued. We told stories. Felt like family. Real family. Built not on blood or obligation, but on shared values. Shared struggle. Shared success. Remember when we were working out of that tiny gallery kitchen? Emily said, grinning. 4 of us crammed in there. Barely room to move. I thought we were insane. We were insane, Nicole said. But it worked. It worked because we believed in it, Jason added. Because we knew we were building something real. Marcus raised his glass. To reclamation, he said. We all raised our glasses. To reclamation. I looked around the table. At these people who stood by me. Who taken risks for me. Who believed in me when I barely believed in myself. This was what I'd been searching for all along. Not just a restaurant. Not just success. But community. Belonging. The knowledge that I was building something that would outlast me. Something that would protect and nurture the next generation of chefs the way I wished I'd been protected. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I walked through the empty restaurant. Turned off lights. Checked doors. Touched surfaces. The same ritual I'd done for years. But this time it was different. This time everything I touched actually belonged to me. Not on paper alone but in spirit. In truth. I'd built this. With help, yes. But on my terms. With my vision. My values. I thought about Amanda. Wondered if she ever thought about me. About what she'd lost. About the empire she could have built if she'd just been honest. If she'd just treated people with respect. I hoped she did. I hoped it haunted her. But mostly I hoped she learned. Hoped she became someone different. Someone better. Because holding on to anger was exhausting. And I was done being angry. I walked outside. Locked the door behind me. The Chicago night was cold. Clear. Stars were barely visible through the city lights, but they were there. I pulled my coat tight and started walking home. The streets were quiet. Empty. Just me and the sound of my footsteps echoing off brick and glass. I was not scared. Was not lost. For the first time in as long as I could remember, I knew exactly where I was going. Forward. 7 years after Amanda fired me, I woke up to sunlight streaming through the windows of my new apartment. Bigger than the studio I'd lived in back then. 2 bedrooms. High ceilings. A kitchen I actually cooked in, not just passed through on my way to work. I'd bought it 2 years ago. Paid cash. Money I'd earned. Money that belonged to me. No investors. No partners. Just the result of years of work that had finally paid off in ways I'd never imagined. I made coffee. Checked my phone. Emails from 3 culinary schools asking me to speak. An invitation to judge a James Beard Award category. A message from a producer at a streaming service wanting to discuss a documentary about the Phoenix Project. I set the phone down. Some of these I'd respond to. Others I'd decline. I'd learn to say no. To protect my time. To focus on what mattered. Fame was seductive. Validation was addictive. But neither of them made you happy. Purpose did. Building something meaningful did. Helping people did. At 8 I headed to Reclaimed. Not to cook. Not today. Emily ran the day-to-day operations now. She was better at it than I'd ever been. More patient with staff. Better at managing personalities. I still developed new dishes. Still consulted on menu changes. Still worked the line during major events. But I'd learned to delegate. To trust. To let go of control. It had been hard. Letting someone else run my kitchen. Even someone I trusted completely. But it was necessary. I could not be everywhere. Could not do everything. And trying to had nearly broken me once before. The restaurant was quiet when I arrived. Morning prep. A few cooks working stations. The smell of stock simmering. Vegetables being prepped. Bread baking. The familiar soundtrack of a kitchen coming to life. I walked through, said hello to people, checked in. Not micromanaging. Just present. Visible. Available. Then I headed to the office upstairs. Marcus was already there. He'd aged well. Gray at the temples now. Reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked up when I entered, smiled. Big day, he said. Big day, I agreed. Today was the grand opening of our 8th location. Portland. We'd spent a year finding the right space. The right team. The right chef to lead it. A young woman named Alicia Reyes. 29. Brilliant. Creative. Hungry. She'd come through the Phoenix Project 2 years ago. developed a concept that blended her Mexican heritage with French technique. When investors saw what she could do, they fought over who got to back her. She chosen us. Because we offered her something the others did not. Equity. Real ownership. A seat at the table. Nervous? Marcus asked. For her? A little. For us? No. She's ready. He nodded. Closed his laptop. I've been thinking about something. Yeah. We've built something extraordinary here, Sarah. 8 locations. The Phoenix Project has launched 43 chefs in 7 years. 43 people who now own their own restaurants. Who are building careers on their own terms. That is a legacy. That is impact beyond anything I imagined when I first reached out to you. I sat down across from him. But I'm getting old, Marcus said. He smiled, but there was something serious behind it. I'm 62. I've been in this industry for 40 years. I've loved every minute of working with you. Watching you grow. Watching this vision become reality. But I think it is time for me to step back. Let the next generation take over. I felt a tightness in my chest. Marcus had been there from the beginning. My mentor. My partner. My friend. The idea of doing this without him felt wrong. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to retire, Marcus said gently. Not completely. I'll still consult. Still help where I can. But the day-to-day, the strategy sessions, the endless calls with investors and lawyers, I'm ready to hand that off. And I think you know exactly who should take it. I did know. Emily. She'd been shadowing Marcus for the past year. Learning the business side. The finance. The legal structures. She had the vision. The drive. The integrity. She was ready. Have you talked to her? I asked. I wanted to talk to you first, Marcus said. Make sure you were comfortable with it. I thought about Emily. About how far she'd come. From a scared line cook to a partner. To a leader. To someone who could run an empire. Yeah, I said. I'm comfortable with it. More than comfortable. Just perfect. Marcus smiled. Reached across the desk and shook my hand. Then it is settled. I'll tell her this week. That afternoon, I took the train to the Phoenix Project. The building looked different now. We repainted. Renovated. Added signage. Inside, 5 chefs worked in their designated spaces. Testing. Experimenting. Building. I walked through observing. Offering advice when asked. Staying quiet when not. This was their space. Their time. I was just a guide. One of the chefs, a kid named Michael, called me over. He was working on a dish. Pan-seared trout with a brown butter sauce. Simple. Classic. But he looked frustrated. What's wrong? I asked. It is missing something, he said. I see and not figure out what. I tasted the sauce. Good technique. Good flavor. But he was right. It needed something. Acid, I said. Just a touch. Lemon. Or maybe a splash of white wine in the butter. It'll brighten everything. Balance the richness. He nodded. Made the adjustment. Tasted again. His face lit up. That is it. Thank you, chef. You got there yourself, I said. I just pointed in the right direction. That evening I met Rebecca for dinner. Not at one of our restaurants. At a small Thai place in Logan Square. Somewhere we could just be 2 people. Not chefs. Not business partners. Just friends. We ordered too much food. Shared dishes. Talked about everything except work. Her daughter was applying to colleges. My niece had just gotten engaged. Normal life things. The things that reminded us we existed outside of kitchens and menus and business plans. Do you ever think about her? Rebecca asked eventually. She did not have to say the name. I knew who she meant. Sometimes, I admitted. Less than I used to. In the beginning I thought about her constantly. What she was doing. Whether she regretted it. Whether she knew what she'd lost. Now, I mostly just feel empty. Nothing. She is not part of my life anymore. Has not been for years. I saw her, you know, Rebecca said quietly. About 6 months ago. I was visiting my sister in Scottsdale. Walked into a hotel. And there she was. Working the front desk. I felt a small jolt. Not of satisfaction. Just surprise. Did you talk to her? No, Rebecca said. She did not see me. I just watched from across the street. Watched her for a minute. She looked tired. Older. Like someone who'd been worn down by life. Part of me wanted to say something. To gloat, maybe. Or to ask her why. Why she did what she did to all of us. But then I realized I did not actually care. The answer would not change anything. Would not give me back the years I lost. So I just left. I nodded. Understood completely. She made her choices. We made ours. That is all there is to it. We finished dinner. Hugged goodbye. I took a rideshare home. Sat in the back seat watching the city slide past. Chicago at night. Lights and movement and endless energy. This city had broken me. And then it had rebuilt me. I'd learned to love it again. Not in spite of what happened. But because of it. Because pain had taught me things comfort never could. Resilience. Strength. The difference between trust and naivety. The next morning, I flew to Portland for Alicia's opening. The restaurant was beautiful. Small. Intimate. Her vision fully realized. I stood in the back during service watching her work. She moved with confidence. Precision. Joy. This was her kitchen. Her team. Her dream. And no one could take it from her. Because we made sure of it. Legally. Structurally. Completely. After service she came over to me. Her chef's coat was splattered with sauce. Her face was flushed from the heat. She looked exhausted and exhilarated. Thank you, she said, for believing in me, for giving me this chance. You earned it, I said. I just opened the door. You walked through it. She hugged me. Held on tight. I would not let you down. You could not if you tried, I said. Flying back to Chicago the next day, I looked out the window at the clouds below. Thought about the path that had brought me here. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed me. The anger that had fueled me. The purpose that had saved me. I was not the same person I'd been 7 years ago. That woman had been naive. Trusting. Focused solely on the work, blind to the business. This version of me was harder. Sharper. But also I thought better. More complete. I'd learned to protect myself without closing myself off. To build systems without losing soul. To succeed without exploiting. 2 weeks later I got an email. No sender name. Just a generic address. I almost deleted it. But something made me open it. The message was short. Sarah, I know you probably do not want to hear from me. I would not blame you if you deleted this without reading. But I needed to say something. I was wrong. About everything. About how I treated you. About what I did. I've spent the last 7 years trying to justify it. Telling myself it was just business. That you'd be fine. That I'd done what I had to do. But the truth is I was selfish. Greedy. I saw an opportunity to take credit for your work and I took it. And it destroyed everything. Not just my career. My relationships. My sense of self. I do not expect forgiveness. I do not deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I know. I know what I did. And I'm sorry. Amanda. I read it 3 times. Felt nothing. Nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just a kind of quiet acknowledgement. She said the words. But they did not change anything. Did not erase what happened. Did not give me back the years I'd spent rebuilding. I closed the email. Did not respond. Deleted it. Moved on. That night, I worked a service at the original reclaimed location. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. Because sometimes I needed to remember where I came from. Needed to feel the heat of the stove. The weight of a knife. The rhythm of a busy kitchen. Emily worked beside me. Nicole called out desserts. Jason fired proteins. The same team. The same energy. But different now. Better. Because we built something that would outlast us. Something that would protect the next generation the way we wished we'd been protected. After service, after the last guest had left and the kitchen was clean, I stood alone in the dining room. Touched the tables. The chairs. The walls. This place had saved me. Given me purpose when I'd lost everything. Given me family when I'd been alone. It was not just a restaurant. It was proof. Proof that you could be broken and still rebuild. That you could be betrayed and still trust. That you could lose everything and still win. I thought about the girl I'd been. Fresh out of culinary school. Full of dreams and ambition and blind faith. I thought about the woman I'd become. Scarred. Wiser. Stronger. I did not miss that girl. Did not want to be her again. She needed to be broken. Needed to learn the hard lessons. So that this woman, this version of me, could exist. Could build. Could protect others from the same pain. I turned off the lights. Locked the door. Stepped out into the Chicago night. The air was cold. Spring was coming, but winter had not let go yet. I pulled my coat tight and started walking. Not toward home. Just walking. Thinking. Processing. Letting everything settle. 7 years ago, I'd stood by the river. Broken. Alone. Holding a knife bag and wondering if I should throw it in the water. Wondering if I was done. If there was any point in continuing. A stranger had reached out. Offered me a chance. A path forward. I'd taken it. And it had changed everything. Now I was that stranger. For Alicia. For Michael. For the 43 chefs who'd come through the Phoenix Project. For the hundreds of young cooks who'd heard me speak and decided to protect themselves. To demand contracts. To know their worth. I was the person I'd needed back then. The mentor. The protector. The voice saying, you do not have to stay a victim. You can become something else. I stopped walking. Looked up. The city towered around me. Cold. Indifferent. Beautiful. I'd conquered it. Not in the way Amanda had tried to. Not through exploitation or shortcuts. But through work. Through integrity. Through building something real. Something lasting. 10 years to the day after Amanda fired me, I stood on a stage in front of 500 people. The ballroom was packed. Chefs. Restaurateurs. Students. Industry professionals. Media. They'd come from all over the country for this. The annual Reclaimed Summit. What had started as a small gathering 5 years ago had grown into one of the most important events in the culinary world. Not because of the food, though the food was exceptional, but because of what it represented. A commitment to changing an industry, to protecting talent, to building something better. I wore a simple black dress. No chef's coat. Not tonight. Tonight was not about cooking. It was about legacy, about passing the torch. I looked out at the crowd, saw familiar faces. Emily sat in the front row. Beside her, Nicole and Jason. Further back, David and Rebecca. Marcus, now fully retired, sitting with his wife. Alicia Reyes, who now ran not just the Portland location but our entire West Coast operations. Michael Chun, the kid from the Phoenix Project who just opened his 3rd restaurant. And dozens of others. People I'd mentored. People I'd helped. People who'd taken what we'd built and made it their own. The moderator, a journalist from Bon Appetit, finished her introduction. The applause was warm. Sustained. I waited for it to die down before I spoke. 10 years ago, I began. I stood in an alley behind a restaurant in River North. It was raining. I'd just been fired from the kitchen I'd built. From the partnership I'd believed in. I had a bag of knives, a severance check that felt like hush money, and absolutely no idea what came next. I thought my career was over. I thought I'd failed. I thought I'd lost everything that mattered. I paused. Let the words settle. I was wrong. I had not lost everything. I'd lost one thing. A job. A restaurant. A partnership that was never real to begin with. But I still had my talent. My knowledge. My drive. And I had something else. Something I did not recognize at the time. I had a choice. I could disappear. I could give up. I could let the person who wronged me define my story. Or I could fight back. Not with anger. Not with revenge. But with purpose. With the determination to build something better. Something that could not be stolen. Something that would protect others from what I'd been through. I looked out at the crowd. Saw people nodding. Saw some wiping their eyes. This story was not just mine anymore. It belonged to everyone who'd ever been exploited. Everyone who'd ever had their work stolen. Everyone who'd ever trusted the wrong person and paid the price. I chose to fight. I continued. And I'm standing here today because of the people who fought with me. My team. My mentors. The chefs who came before me and shared their stories. The young chefs who came after and trusted me to guide them. This is not my success. It is ours. All of us. Together. I gestured to the screen behind me. It lit up with numbers. Statistics. 8 reclaimed locations across the country. 62 chefs launched through the Phoenix Project. Over 1,000 jobs created. Millions of dollars in economic impact. But more important than the numbers were the stories. The faces on the screen. Young chefs who now own their own restaurants. Who had equity. Who had contracts. Who had protection. This is what we've built, I said. Not an empire. A movement. A commitment to doing things differently. To valuing people over profit. To protecting creativity instead of exploiting it. And tonight, I'm here to announce the next phase. The screen changed. Showed a new logo. The Reclaimed Foundation. We re-establishing a non-profit, I explained. Dedicated to providing legal resources, education and financial support to chefs who've been exploited. Free legal consultations. Template contracts. Emergency grants for people who need to walk away from abusive situations. Because the truth is, what happened to me still happens every day. To young chefs. To talented people who just want to cook. And we're going to do everything we can to stop it. The applause was immediate. Loud. People stood. I saw Emily grinning. Saw Marcus nodding approvingly. Saw the young chefs in the crowd looking at each other with something like hope. When the applause finally died down, the moderator asked her first question. Sarah, 10 years later, looking back at everything that happened, do you have any regrets? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. Not about how I responded. Not about the choices I made after. But I do regret one thing. I regret not protecting myself from the beginning. I regret trusting without verifying. I regret assuming that friendship was enough. That good intentions mattered more than legal documentation. If I could go back and tell that younger version of myself one thing, it would be this. Get everything in writing. Protect yourself. Know your worth. Do not let anyone convince you that asking for a contract means you do not trust them. Trust and protection are not opposites. They are partners. And what about Amanda Brooks? The moderator asked. Have you had any contact with her over the years? The room went quiet. Waiting. I knew this question would come. I'd prepared for it. She reached out once, I said. An email. An apology. I read it. Then I deleted it. Not because I'm holding on to anger, but because I'd already moved on. Her apology did not change what happened. Did not give me back the years I lost. Did not undo the damage. So I let it go. Let her go. Just not part of my life. Has not been for a long time. Do you know what she is doing now? I've heard things, I said. But I do not keep tabs on her. I do not think about her. My focus is forward. On the people I can help. On the systems I can change. On the future I can build. The moderator smiled. Speaking of the future, there are rumors that you re-stepping back from day-to-day operations. Is that true? I nodded. It is. I'll always be involved. I'll always mentor. I'll always cook when the mood strikes. But the truth is, I've built an incredible team. People who share the vision. Who execute it better than I ever could. Emily has been running operations for the past 3 years. She is brilliant at it. And it's time for me to trust her. To let her lead. The same way someone once trusted me. I looked at Emily. She was crying now. Happy tears. Proud tears. She'd earned this. Worked for it. Sacrificed for it. She was ready. More than ready. After the panel there was a reception. People came up to me. Thanked me. Told me their stories. A young chef from Atlanta said, I'd inspired her to demand a contract from her investor. A culinary student from Seattle said she'd chosen her school because I'd spoken there. A food writer from New York said the Reclaimed model had influenced an entire series she was working on about ethical restaurant ownership. Each conversation was a reminder of why I'd done this, of why it mattered. Later, when the crowd had thinned, I found myself alone with Marcus. He looked older now, fully gray, slower in his movements. But his eyes were still sharp, still assessing, still seeing things others missed. "I'm proud of you," he said simply. "I could not have done it without you," I replied. "You could have," Marcus said. "You would have found another way, another mentor. But I'm glad I got to be part of it. Watching you transform from a broken, angry chef into a leader, into someone who changes lives, that's been the honor of my career." I hugged him, held on for a long moment. "Thank you," I whispered, "for seeing something in me I did not see in myself." "You always had it," Marcus said. "You just needed permission to use it." That night, I went back to the original reclaimed location. Not to work, just to be there. To walk through the empty space and remember. The dining room was dark, quiet, chairs stacked on tables, the familiar smell of cleaning solution and yesterday's bread. I walked into the kitchen, ran my hand along the cold steel counters, touched the stove, the knife rack. The past where ID spent countless hours perfecting plates, correcting mistakes, building something meaningful. This kitchen had saved me, given me purpose, given me a second chance. And now it barely needed me. Emily and her team ran it flawlessly, which was exactly how it should be. ID learned to let go, to trust, to understand that the best leaders built systems that did not require them, that lasted beyond them. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through old photos, found one from 7 years ago. The first pop-up. Me, Emily, Nicole, and Jason crammed into that tiny gallery kitchen. We looked young, scared, determined. I barely recognized that version of myself. She'd been so angry, so hurt, so focused on proving something. This version of me, standing in a successful restaurant, having just announced a foundation that would help thousands of chefs, did not need to prove anything. She already knew her worth. I thought about Amanda. Wondered briefly if she was happy, if she found peace, if she ever thought about what she lost. Then I stopped wondering, because it did not matter. Her story was hers. Mine was mine. They intersected once, violently, painfully, but they diverged. And I built something beautiful from the wreckage. I left the restaurant, walked to the river, the same spot where I sat 10 years ago, broken, alone, contemplating throwing my knives into the water. The bench was still there. I sat down, looked at the dark water, the city lights reflecting on the surface. Chicago had changed in 10 years. New buildings, new restaurants, new energy. But some things stayed the same. The river, the cold wind, the feeling of possibility that hummed beneath everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Are you okay?" I smiled, typed back. "Yeah, just thinking. About how far we've come." 3 dots appeared. Then her response. "We've come exactly where we were supposed to be." She was right. This was where I was supposed to be. Not because it was easy, not because it was fair, but because every choice, every struggle, every moment of pain and doubt had led here. To this bench, to this moment, to this version of myself who could look at the river without feeling broken. I stood up, pulled my coat tight, started walking home. The streets were quiet, late enough that most people were inside. Just me and the occasional taxi, the sound of my footsteps echoing off concrete and glass. I thought about the kitchen ID left behind, the people ID helped, the lives ID changed, the foundation that would keep changing lives long after I was gone. This was legacy, real legacy, not a name on a building, not credit for dishes, but impact, protection, the knowledge that ID made the industry better, safer, fair. When I reached my apartment, I poured a glass of wine, stood at the window looking out at the city. 10 years ago, ID owned nothing, had nothing, was nothing, or so ID believed. Now I owned a piece of something bigger than myself. Had a family built on choice, not blood. Was someone who mattered. Not because of fame. Not because of awards. But because ID chosen to turn pain into purpose. Betrayal into building. Anger into action. I raised my glass to the city. To Chicago. To the place that had broken me and rebuilt me. To every chef who fight the same battle. To every person who choose to stand up instead of give up. To everyone who take what was stolen and reclaim it. To reclamation, I said aloud. To no one. To everyone. To myself. I drank. Set the glass down. Went to bed. Tomorrow I'd wake up and do it again. Mentor someone. Refine a recipe. Review a contract. Make a decision. Build. Protect. Lead. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. Because this was who I'd become. This was my purpose. My calling. My life. I was not a victim. I was not an employee. I was not someone's tool. I was Sarah Collins. Chef. Founder. Mentor. Leader. And I had reclaimed everything.